Welcome to NC Political Tea, the show where North Carolina's political scene gets served piping hot, grassroots style. We're here to shake up the status quo with unapologetically conservative takes and a whole lot of Southern charm. From the halls of Congress to under the dome, we're exposing the deals, the drama, and the dirt that the mainstream media won't touch. Who's fighting for your freedom? Who's selling out to the woke mob? And who's about to get roasted? No fluff, no filters, and absolutely no time for spineless politics. Just bold Republican commentary, sharp analysis, and enough sass to make the left squirm. So grab your sweet tea or something stronger, and let's dive into the hottest headlines and juiciest scandals rocking the Tar Heel State. This is NC Political Tea, where the truth always gets served.
Hey, we're not messing around tonight.
We're back one day later.
We're back, and we're not messing around. We have Roger Stone, for God's sakes. I mean, a legend. A total legend. So I interviewed him a little earlier this afternoon, to be fair. Let's see. We also have, say no to Roy Cooper. We know we're going to say no to Roy Cooper. You know damn well we are. We're going to have Steve Baker on from The Blaze, one of our favorites.
Yeah.
And
talk a little bit more about last night because it was so upsetting.
It was upsetting. Okay, so we told you last night that North Carolina just turned itself into a test lab for bargain basement medicine, basically. And you and your family are guinea pigs.
And we kind of want to reiterate some of the things we've already seen with relationship to that, which are kind of really important because we already know there are people here that really, they don't care about you. They care about making money and they care about forwarding their agenda. And I think medicine is probably not at the forefront of what they're thinking.
Well, I don't think so either. So we've got two doctors, Grant Campbell, who is a representative out of Cabarrus County, who quite frankly, I'm extremely disappointed in. And we've got Tim Reeder, who I've talked about for the last 2 years out of Pitt County, who's a representative, both doctors. Doctors should not be in office. Pick one, right? Because they're doing things that are terrible for patients with this bill and great for the hospitals because the hospitals want more workers, right? That can crank out billable hours so they make money.
Well, I think too, people are led down the primrose path when you have someone they think is an expert. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they see things from their vantage point. Doesn't mean it's the overall vantage point. And it also doesn't mean it's the right vantage point.
Yeah. Well, this is terrible. Thanks to Republicans in the state. There's a new licensing category for medical licenses. It's called the Internationally Trained Physician Employee License. And in doing so, they literally have blown up the gold standard protecting patient care. So until now, and in every other state, every physician who wants to practice, let's say they're in, Europe, Ukraine, wherever, they'll come to the U.S., they will complete a residency, okay? And actually, any doctor, wherever they're from, whether they're from Ukraine, Bangladesh, or Boston, they all have to do a U.S. residency, and they all have to pass one of two U.S. licensing tests. So now you can literally be practicing medicine in a tent in Karachi. You come into North Carolina. Yeah. No other state, Margot. North Carolina, you immediately skip the line for any American doctor, okay, that they can hire. And you're not as well trained, period. And who, in their infinite wisdom, did the Republicans put control of this to? The medical board.
Yeah. Oh, really? It was the medical board? And isn't Tim Reeder on the medical board? I thought he was.
He is not, because far left whack jobs, which he's approaching there, all but two. I think there's 12 altogether, but all but two are appointed by the governor. So all the 10 sitting there now are appointed by Roy Cooper.
Yeah, I know the legislature has 2 spots, right? They get to appoint 2.
Yeah, and they're weak at best. So what we have here is we've got the medical board, unelected officials, medical board, and the Republicans gave them the power. I'm very disappointed with Grant Campbell. I expected better of him.
I just don't understand what the impetus behind this was. I guess I'm kind of scratching my head. Well, but he's not making any money off that. In North Carolina, doctors aren't making any money off that. So how can this be good?
They want to cushion their pads when they retire. I'm not saying that about Grant. I'm disappointed at this decision he's made. Tim Reeder is a rat, and anything that man's name is on typically is done for the medical lobby, typically is done not with patients in mind. It's bad. Yeah, you're right. Sadly, there are many Republicans who fit this bill who will do something that's expedient for them. We're going to show you the example of a Pakistani doctor here. The medical board, I turned this into a well-fashioned, legally fashioned document for the medical board. They didn't even sanction him. The medical board today that's going to be looking over all of these doctors said, no problem. So let's go ahead and get this up here. This pisses me off.
I want to look at him. Not only is he a doctor, he's got deep ties, was brought in here from Pakistan by Obama and went to work propagating, get this, and massaging the terrorist message and excusing it. And sitting there and saying that there's a demonstrable difference between ISIS and Islamic Jihad. And there's not. Okay. So I started looking, and then to my surprise, he said he's going to wear his keffiyeh at work. Now, a keffiyeh is a Hamas scarf, right? It's saying that I support terrorism, right? And oh, by the way, you're free to disagree. At least 70% of the country feels that way. Okay. So you can disagree and we can have that. We can't have that discussion. You know why? I'm not talking about it. It's settled for me. That's the way that I conceive of it. And I'm the decider. So here we go. So he's here. This is another doctor, another physician who's saying this is Holocaust inversion. And it is. To call what's happening in Gaza, first of all, Palestine isn't real. Call what's happening in Gaza, which is a response to a terror attack, a Holocaust, it's insulting. Now, here he is. And by the way, he calls himself, Margot, a public figure. You actually jumped in on us too. He calls himself a public figure. He's a doctor in Catawba County. And he's jumped around hospitals.
I love how he is a mouthpiece for Hamas there. He knows that Hamas does not want to kill Jews. How does he know that?
He is full of shit. He's full of it.
The public spokesman. Maybe that'll get him out of the country.
Then he's talking about Israeli being rapists. So I want to tell you this right now. Okay. If you are a private citizen, you're free to say people from Japan are horrible, whatever. You can do that, right? You're free to do that. But if you're a doctor and you're talking about demonizing people from other countries publicly
or religions,
that's the problem. Because when you go into the doctor, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you get like a form. You get 100 forms, right? It's going to ask you what your religion is. It's going to ask you what languages are spoken in the home. He has access to this. All doctors do, right? And I said, damn, okay, he hates Israelis, so that's my children, right? What languages do we speak in the home? Hebrew and English. Now he's talking about Christians. He's saying Jews are bad, but Christians are really bad.
This goes back to the Saturday people, Sunday people comment.
That's right.
That I've always made.
And then the Christians are yeah. And then he's saying that the worst are the Christian Zionists, which, by the way, if you live with a biblical worldview and you're an evangelical, then he's talking to you. Catawba County is 99% evangelical. They're red county. The worst are Christian Zionists who justify land theft and murder in the name of the guy.
So
Jesus, right?
The last sentence is the most offensive. The delusions of organized religion are as amusing as they are criminal. So that is 99% of his base.
And so What this guy is doing, okay, is demonizing all of his patients.
Yeah, well, and he's in Western North Carolina, which is, predominantly Christian and mostly, I would say, Anglo-Saxon Christian.
So the medical board has no problem with this guy. And the medical board, by the way, these tweets that he made were done during the workday. During the days he was in the clinic, he hates Christians so badly. He made those posts during clinic hours.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't matter if it was clinic hours or not. He hates people.
Well, I mean, that just shows the vitriol that he has. But what I'm saying is the same people who do not think that that's a problem right there are going to be determining, well, they have oversight over doctors, meaning they can do whatever. We found, by the way, felons, there's plenty of felons who are doctors here in North Carolina. There's plenty of active drug addicts.
But they go to the back of the line now that we have this immigration visa thing.
Well, maybe, I don't know. But so felons, terror supporters, drug abusers are able to practice here. And now you brought up the point last night. How the hell do you check somebody's background if they're from Karachi, if they're from wherever? They're not going to have background checks.
There's no such thing as malpractice there like there is here. Like there's a record when people commit malpractice. In small villages in Pakistan, I doubt they have that. And if I were a doctor in a small village who had done some bad things, where would I go to get away?
What is a bad thing? The rape gangs come from Pakistan over in the UK. The child grooming games, right?
Well,
I mean, and
even bad surgeries.
You guys, we are screwed. And this is because Republicans in North Carolina, I just told you 2 of them that have their imprimatur on this bill. So anyway, onto a lighter subject. I had the opportunity to speak with the Roger Stone, and it was a real pleasure. And I want to put up what he said about Mamdani and how we can keep the Islamic radicals out of the Democrat, from the Democrat Party, from infiltrating and putting up candidates here that are like Mamdani in New York City. So watch what he says. It's going to be a really good interview on why these Marxist politicians like Mamdani are able to build such fiercely loyal followings in a short time. What are the key ingredients you think makes up his rise?
Well, I think, first of all, it speaks to the fundamental changes in the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party nurtured this kind of progressive far left wing for many years. And they woke up one day and figured out that they're now in charge. So the word moderate Democrat today is an oxymoron. If John F. Kennedy, who was an ardent anti-communist, a tax cutter, who believed in a silver-backed dollar and a strong national defense, if he were alive today, he'd be a Republican, because there's no room for those views in today's Democrat Party. This is now the party of AOC and Jasmine Crockett and that old windbag Bernie Sanders. You know, it's funny, Bernie used to criticize millionaires and billionaires. Now I notice he just criticizes billionaires. It's because Bernie and his wife skimmed millions in media placement fees from his 2 presidential campaigns. And while that's not illegal, I wonder whether he disclosed to his donors that he and his wife were taking a hefty cut of the proceeds. So Bernie's a millionaire today with several vacation homes, driving a top of the line Mercedes. So he likes socialism for you, but not for Comrade Bernie. This is a toxic mix for their party. I call him the Ayatollah Mamdani. This guy's running on a very radical platform. He wants to do away with cash bail. He wants to defund the police. When he says violence is just a social construct, and I think violence is very dangerous, but to me, he's signaling that he intends to open the doors and let everybody out of Rikers Island. And of course, he's promising everybody free everything, free health care, free transportation, free bus rides. And who's going to pay for that? He's very, very blunt. White people. He's going to tax white people. He said it, not me. That is his plan. As of today, with the opposition split between three candidates, I think he is likely to be the next mayor of New York City. And while I feel badly for the poor people of New York who have to suffer through the tax and crime epidemic that's coming as businesses, big and small, flee the city, I do think there is a silver lining in that by 2028, with New York City on fire, people will be able to see across the country as a showcase what happens when you elect Marxists, because that's what this guy is. He's a Marxist, but he's also a radical jihadi. He keeps calling for the intifada. If you're Jewish, you know what that means. On the other hand, the most recent polling shows that he's still getting about 43%, the largest share of Jewish voters of the four candidates running, which is masochistic in a way. The Democrat Party has gone to the extreme left, and it's why I think they will never make it back to the center. I think that's why they will never win another national election.
I mean, they hopefully will go the way of the Whigs. We can only hope. I think, and the poll you're referencing, I think there was another poll that came out after that. That poll had a wonky sponsor, and I think it's something on the order of 23%. But look, I'm Jewish. There's no way in hell I'm voting for a Democrat. Why? Because I'd like to stay alive. Thank you very much. But sadly, there's not the same survival instinct apparently in New York, where I used to live. I lived there for 4 years, had no problem. It was during the end of Giuliani's tenure there and the beginning of Bloomberg's tenure. And as you know, it was great then, a clean city, safe city, not now.
Well, I think there's another key point here, and that is in order to win the Democrat primary, he did have to cheat. So,
and they always do. And they always do. But I really found that interesting because, of course, here you and I have been tracking over the last 3 years the Islamatization of the Democrat Party leadership,
especially in North Carolina.
Right. Right. And people don't recognize that. 112 rabbis came out in the Charlotte Observer, and they're going to come out in several other newspapers in the next every weekend. And I interviewed one of the rabbis today that signed an open letter asking the state of North Carolina to boycott the Democrat Party. These are rabbis, by the way, most of which are Democrat. But it's not the Democrat Party here. It's full of Islamists. Okay, they've got an Arab caucus and an Islam caucus, and they push the Jewish caucus out. Okay, so not only did they push the Jewish caucus out, they've made several resolutions that say America should not sell arms or not give arms to Israel, to refuse to sell them even for cash, like they do with North Korea and Iran.
That's crazy.
Well, I say this because the candidates that they're going to put forward, you bet your ass they're going to be Islamists.
Well, they're already putting them forward. We already look. What about that crazy lady in Durham?
Yeah, we have Nita Lime. We're going to have more. They're communists, they're Islamists, and they're dangerous.
You know what's really ironic, though, Sloan, to me, is that they're supposed to be a pretty conservative people, but they're not. They're radical.
But they're liars, because in the religion, they tell you to lie to gain power. So you're allowed to lie and say, sure, we love the gays. Hell, we love the trans. It's great, etc. to get power. But believe me, they'll be the first ones thrown off the building. Won't be you or I, because, we're resisting.
We'll be third, not first.
They'll never catch me.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it like that. I mean, we're not the first priority.
That's right. Absolutely. So then I asked him a little bit about not the particulars of the Senate race, but how do we win as grassroots the Senate race? Because as you know, J.D. Vance just said this about Roger Stone yesterday. He is the most venerable political strategist of all time in American history. So I had to ask him this. I think grassroots people, you're going to appreciate this tweet a couple of days ago. And I fully agree with you. And it was something like, unless a statewide candidate in a primary can raise money, they're not a serious candidate. And I think that's the position we're in. You mentioned Michael Watley, RNC chair. You may know this. He was a former NC GOP chair. So he's got some recognition, name recognition, but this may very well be the biggest and most expensive Senate race in history here in North Carolina. So what do you have to say? I mean, you've seen plenty of GOP primaries where the wrong candidate wins and lost in the general, but you've seen undercapitalized candidates peter out too. What's your advice?
Or see her
here?
2 days in a row. I don't know what's going
A
on.
populist uprising in the country. It's happened with Goldwater. It happened with Reagan. It happened with Trump. It brings a lot of really good people to the political process. But it takes more than good intentions and strong principles and physical energy to get elected to office. You have to have the resources to communicate with voters. That means radio, television, cable, text messaging, social media. These things are not inexpensive. So I meet great candidates all the time who tell me that they're going to win because they have great grassroots support. First of all, I think we all talk to each other. So there's what I call the in-speak of American politics, that the political elites talk to each other, but that doesn't mean it's affected by the voters. And having a great social media presence is great, but guess what? 75% of the people who vote in Republican primaries are over 60 years old, and they're not on social media, other than some of them are on Facebook so they can see their grandchildren, but they're not there every day. So if a candidate comes to me, it doesn't matter how great their intentions are, doesn't mean how outstanding their qualifications may be, may not matter how loyal they are to the Trump agenda. If you don't have resources, please don't tell me you're going to win with grassroots support. I know a famous person, I won't mention their name, ran for Congress, raised quite a bit of money, didn't spend any of it on actual voter communication, but kept telling me, well, we've knocked on 58,000 doors and everybody we meet say they're voting for me. Let me give you a hint. First of all, in these days and age, many people don't want to open their door to a stranger. So there are a lot of voters who just don't want to take that risk. And then secondarily, most voters will say whatever you want to hear to make you go away because they just want you to leave. So that's not a scientific sample, and it is not the way campaigns are run. Does that mean you should not, if you're a candidate running for the Senate and you have television ads and cable ads and social media ads and internet ads and voter mailings and radio ads, does that mean you shouldn't meet people? I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is when you knock on the door, if they've already seen you on TV, they've already gotten a piece of mail from you, and they've already heard you on the radio, they're far more likely to consider voting for you than if when you knock on the door, they've never heard of you in their entire life.
Right. I've run a statewide campaign here in North Carolina before, and believe me, I know that. And I would tell my candidate also, every time they throw mud at you, every time you say something that's out of step, which candidates do, that's going to cost us another $50,000. That's going to cost us, right? Because you've got to counter the attacks. And that's something you have to have in the budget. And a lot of grassroots candidates don't think about that. They think about putting out their message. It's going to be wonderful. They don't understand being attacked and how much money that costs to get out of.
Well, and it speaks to one of my rules. You know, I wrote a book called Stone's Rules, which if you're going to run for public office, I strongly urge you to read.
Yes.
You can go to my website, stonezone.com, go to the store there. But no attack on you should ever go unanswered. This idea that, well, if I repeat the attack, if I respond to the attack, I'm just going to repeat the charge. I don't believe in that. I believe that when you're attacked, if you do not respond, well, then people say, wow, that guy didn't respond. So what's being said about him or her must be true. Now, that doesn't mean you remain focused on your response, because you don't want to be on defense. So I believe in answering the charge, responding it, refuting it, and then counter-attacking, pivot and counter-attack. But you can't always plan for these things. That's why I think it was General Eisenhower who said, plans are worthless, but planning is indispensable.
It's like what Mike Tyson said. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
Okay. So, and I asked that question because we have Don Brown running. A lot of people support Don Brown. You know, he's a great candidate. He's a grassroots candidate. I don't know how much money he's raised.
I don't know that he's raised a lot of money, but he's in there in the fight. He's not giving up. Andy Nelson went ahead and packed up his toy box, and now we're going to hear from all the candidates we can.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'll be honest. And I used to be someone who would give people a hard time, but before I managed campaigns, I would say, look, the fact that this is a grassroots true candidate should be enough, because it's better than what we have. And then I started to look at things a little bit differently, because running a campaign is a business, and part of the business is being able to raise money. This is going to be,
it's an uphill battle. It doesn't matter who it is, Sloan, on the Republican side. Neither one of these candidates are very well known. Neither one of these candidates are, and that's a recent poll that just came out today, that there's only a 39% name recognition with Michael Whatley. So that's bad, because I think Roy Cooper was in the 80s or the I believe it was in the 80s. So we got that issue. And then we have another candidate that really, he ran for Congress in a specific district, which they know him very well. And anybody that's an avid military book reader would know him, because he's had a couple of really good bestsellers. But overall, North Carolinians do not know Don Brown.
Yeah. And to get there's a couple of things. To get your name out is most important. Okay. That's number one. And like I was talking with Roger, you don't realize that getting your name out is half the battle. Once you get engaged in a campaign, people are going to hit you with attacks. Your opponent is going to hit you with attacks, usually when you've run out of money. It's very strategic. That's how you do it. You wait until the end. You see what they're getting in, et cetera. And inevitably in those last, 6 weeks, 3 weeks before the election, that's when you're going to need the most money. And a lot of candidates that have 39% name recognition and Don Brown even less, they're going to burn on their cash just trying to get their name recognized. So there's different phases of a campaign financially that you have to plan for.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize planning is really years in advance if you're really going to do it right. It's not going to be, I'm just going to run for Congress.
Yeah. The primaries in 3 months, I'm going to put my name in the hat.
Yeah, no.
And we've seen that. We've seen that. So, one of the things going on in the national scene is federalizing DC. So a lot of you, maybe you don't go to DC very often. I go every month for business. I can tell you, I'm glad that this is happening. You may send your kid on a field trip there and be scared shitless. I was actually there a couple of months ago when the 2 Israeli embassy workers were killed. And I was actually in a seminar with Yaron Latinsky, the young man who was killed, all day during the day. And then at night, gunned down. So that was pretty traumatic for me.
I'm sure.
And things like that happen all the time. I mean, the murder rate in DC is 3 times the rate of a regular city. So we're going to bring Steve on after we show this. Steve Baker is coming on with us to talk about this, because it's a thing. It's a thing. We've got a real problem up there. So, to no surprise, paid protesters, they're already in the mix. Watch this.
About federal law enforcement. But the fury may not be fully organic. Fox News has learned that paid protester requests have increased 400% since President Trump announced the federal takeover of D.C.'s police department. The New York Post reports that high-dollar donors like George Soros have pumped more than $20 million into protest groups currently organizing demonstrations in the district.
Are you here? You're trying to arrest innocent people?
According to the White House, 45 arrests were made last night for reasons including assault, drug distribution, and illegal firearms. 29 illegal immigrants were also apprehended. The district's police chief, Pamela Smith, announcing today that local police will begin sharing information on undocumented individuals with immigration agents.
Washington, D.C. is at its worst point.
I mean, that's incredible. That is an incredible thing that they're going to be sharing now. Hello, Steve. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Great.
I actually did not anticipate doing this from my car, but I was at an early dinner with my editor-in-chief at The Blaze, and he goes, "Oh, we got an event we got to go to tonight." And I went, wait. I can't cancel on my gals here, my North Carolina girls. can't do that. So I'm sitting at a baseball park in downtown Dallas right now. I think I'm about 5 minutes away from the venue where I'm supposed to go to this meeting. And anyway, but I wasn't gonna miss being with you guys tonight. So here I am.
don't think, I really don't think it was a good idea for you to go. So I'm happy you're here. Anyway, with us. So we're talking about DC. Both of us have good and bad memories about DC, right? But we go, and actually this is the last time we went.
Oh, look at that. How about that? Yeah, look at that.
We went to a colleague dinner, and and I was a little scared. I think I told you I was a little scared afterwards walking around, just because there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in enforcing the law in DC.
Well, I was just there last week, and the hotel where I was staying is only 2.5 blocks away from the Capitol. And it was basically a crime scene the entire time. So my hotel is like right there at, the Union Station. And it's, you walk out the front door of my hotel, you can see the Capitol Dome. It's right there. And yet it was unbelievable. The crime, the way that people behave there is insane. And this was within the district of the United States Capitol Police, or in their purview. And they just stand and watch it. They don't stop anything.
Wow.
So at Union Station, you have all the tents, you have all the crime there, you have all the people that are posted up there, the homeless people in the middle of the streets. And again, we're not talking about the suburbs. We're not talking about the ghetto. We're not talking about on the outlying areas of DC. We're talking about 2.5 blocks from the Capitol building of the United States. And people would just be standing in the middle of the streets. They're flagging, they're messing around with cars. Look
what happened last night. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me play this again, guys. This guy threw a sandwich at a cop in face. Okay, so to the credit of people in charge now, he's charged with a felony, I believe, felony assault on a cop.
With a sandwich.
But seriously, if he had thrown a better quality sandwich, it would not have been a felony. It would have
been meatball sub.
Yeah,
that will F somebody up.
Y'all are making me laugh.
Well, I'm actually convinced because it was a foot long that's why he got the felony charge.
I think it was the running. I think the fact he ran, hit me with a sandwich and run.
I mean, a foot long can hurt you.
I guess.
You know what I'm talking about.
But I'm telling you, it's disrespect, and for no reason. I think it was in response to this guy being pissed off at the new law. I don't know what it is, but that was a block from the Capitol. I mean, the Capitol should be the most venerable place in all the United States.
But you know that this guy turned out to be an employee of the DOJ, right?
Oh wait,
no.
Oh yeah.
DJ, yeah.
Yeah. So Fox News released it this afternoon.
Wow.
They traced. I don't have his name in front of me, but
a trial lawyer for the DOJ. Now,
I didn't say it was a lawyer. I said he works for the DOJ. I don't know what his job is, but he works for the DOJ.
Says it's a trial lawyer who just lost his job.
That's what.
Yeah, he lost his job.
Well,
so they fired him.
How awesome are the DOJ employees from the last administration? They're pretty awesome, Steve. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I can talk a lot about the DOJ employees from the last administration, and some of that has to do with some things that happened at the Capitol a few years ago, but that's another story altogether.
Speaking of people in the DOJ, what's the latest you've seen about Obamagate? Because I heard today that the grand jury was impaneled. Did you hear that too?
I didn't. I was not off the grid today, but I was so focused on some other things that I was doing that I other than just a very cursory glance at the news and some headlines, I wasn't able to drill down on a lot of things. But I obviously have heard that they are impaneling grand juries to go and look after some of these people. But I got to tell you, I'm very, very skeptical about quite a few of these things because Some of these things have already been through the system, and they're actually closed case files.
Wow.
That makes a difference in whether they. So if they've already been through the system, they've already been through a grand jury, and they're a closed case now, bringing them back up, I don't know constitutionally how that's going to work out. And then, of course, there's the issue of what do they call it? The statute of limitation. Now, I think they can get by that in most cases because, especially if you're talking about a conspiracy, then the conspiracy is ongoing for much longer than just the moment that it was hatched. And
Right.
so they can get past that. And then it really comes down to do the current leadership of DOJ look, Trump loves to talk. Okay. He talks big. He throws out, look, going all the way back to 2016 in the debate with Hillary Clinton, he said, yeah, you'd be locked up. You'd be in jail right now. That kind of thing. And then they were chanting, lock her up, lock her up.
A lot of problems, man. It would have solved a lot of problems.
Yeah. Yeah. But it comes down to, will they have the cojones to do this kind of thing? Because look, we know something about what goes on in Washington, that the pendulum always swings the other way. And if the GOPs and the Trump administration, MAGA, Republicans go after the guilty party, I'm talking about the guilty parties. I want to see them taken. I want to see them taken down. I want to see them locked up. But if they do, they're calculating, okay, if we do that to them, and when the pendulum swings back the other way, what are they going to do to us?
Oh, come on. We already know what they've done to us unprovoked. So we've already seen that. So that, and now it needs to be taken care of. We cannot have a two-tier justice system. You know that better than anyone. And so anyone who's making that argument in the GOP, it is a ridiculous argument because we did nothing. We, the citizens, did nothing by and large. January 6th, most of the offenders did nothing, but they weaponized the justice system against, most people who went, right?
But that is the calculation. That is the calculation they're making. Yeah. And look at the response. Look at the response this week to Trump's. As soon as Trump announced that he was going to, crack down on crime, and he did his press conference a couple of days ago, what was the first two things that every left-wing pundit, every MSM anchor person, it was January 6th. Look, this is the guy that pardoned 1,600 violent, people that attack cops. And this guy is now going to start talking about law and order. And he's talking about the same cops that, he pardoned that were attacked. And then the very next thing out of their mouth was, oh, he's going to deploy the National Guard. Well, why did he delay deploying the National Guard on January 6th? They can't let go of January 6th because it's the only thing they have left in their quiver. It was the biggest narrative victory that the left has had in the history of this country was January 6th, and they are not going to let it go. Now, I can answer both of those questions.
But okay, so Steve, if they're not going to let it go, I think more Republican lawmakers and particularly influential ones need to know that and say, look, we have to do, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Whatever you do or don't do, they're going to do it. So why is that a consideration? And I don't expect you to answer. I'm just putting it out there in the world. Why does anyone give a shit at this point? They're going to say it anyway. So let's just hammer down and get some stuff done.
Go forward.
Well, no, I agree with you, but I actually said this on the Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered show tonight, which aired just a few minutes ago. So we were talking about this same situation, and I said the problem is, and I have a few axioms in my life that I live by, and one of those is that if CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, blah, 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 if they don't say it, it never happened.
Right.
They get by with it because until they pick it up, that's the problem. And all of those guys are fully in the tank for the approved narrative, and they're not ever going to change on this. And now, behind closed doors, they do. I will tell you,
Oh yeah.
that many of the journalists that I've talked to that covered the same trials, the same January 6th trials I've talked to in private conversations, going to lunch with them, having a beer with them after the court, having dinner with them, later in the evening or whatever, and hanging out with them. It's amazing what they will individually admit to with regards to this kind of narrative. Because, for instance, you think about this, just recently, in the last few months, these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters in D.C. who beat up Capitol police officers, drugged them across the ground. They got arrested, were released that night, and charges dropped. Now, that was easily, if the same exact activity had happened by a January 6th defendant, they would have easily been sentenced to 4 to 7, 8 years in prison, maybe 10, for the same exact thing. And yet these guys, these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas supporters, they had their charges dropped by the end of the night.
Any of those Democrat demonstrators or radical demonstrators got their charges dropped. That's the sad part. Like, you can even talk about, isn't it New York City where that lawyer that used Molotov cocktails, and she got almost basically a slap on the wrist.
Two of them, Brooklyn lawyers.
Two lawyers. Yeah, two lawyers. But the point is that behind, when the camera is off and we're talking off the record, these MSM journalists will admit, you got a point there. You got a point there. You can't overcharge the January 6ers and not hold the Hamas protesters that beat the crap out of Capitol Police.
But then they turn around and get on camera and yap.
Same people,
right?
Same people.
Yeah, exactly. and now the video we showed before you came on is that Soros et al. Has hired, spent on the order of $20 million hiring 4,000 people to go down and protest in DC. So it's going to be a perpetual, what was that? Wall Street, something Wall Street. Remember that protest, that, and then the BLM Wall Street and all that. So it's going to be a typical, it's going to be that. And I hope they all get arrested. But okay, so we've got to shift gears because I'm dying to hear about this more, because Corey Mills is a guy that spent time in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
During the cleanup of Helene.
Right.
Prominent guy out of Florida. And you have been doing some dogged reporting out of the Blaze about some issues, to say the least, that I think everyone would have issues with. And now it's becoming mainstream, mainstream reporting. This is the latest. So tell us what's going on with this guy.
Well, just the quick 30-second elevator pitch to those who don't understand. Corey Mills, a GOP representative out of Florida, the 7th District of Florida, which is the Orlando area all the way to the East Coast. And he has been very quick rising star in the GOP. He votes very well. He votes, America first all the time. I mean, he just voted. I mean, he just made a pronouncement, not a vote, but he made a pronouncement today that, we have to take down the Muslim Brotherhood. We need a resolution that finally declares the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Now, by the way, we're talking about a guy who is in fact a Muslim. We have 6 different sources who have told us that he converted to Islam in 2014. Our most recent source, he told that to in 2023. So very recently. And he is a foreign arms weapons trader. That's what his primary business is. He's only been a congressman for 2.5 years. And before that, he had his largest contract he ever received was from Iraq. We also know that he sold ammunition and arms to ISIS back during the previous administration. And we also can link him to multiple Muslim Brotherhood organizations. So the things that these guys like this say with their mouth and even vote, look, you cannot judge any congressman by the way he votes. You have to judge them by what they do before the bills come to the floor of the House.
Oh, I
What
know.
the way they vote in committee, what they
Committee,
let out of committee,
caucus.
that
Yeah,
sort of thing. And
yeah.
so in this guy's case, not only does he have a tremendous problem with stolen valor, nobody that he served in the military with will corroborate his tales of heroism. So then you've got his his international arms trading business, which is very sketchy to say the least. Then you've got the fact that on February 19th of this year, there was a domestic violence call to his $21,000 per month penthouse apartment in D.C., in which his 27-year-old Iranian girlfriend called the Metropolitan Police in D.C. on him for
So,
a
guys,
domestic violence
this
call.
is a different young lady than we just showed on the screen, guys.
Yeah.
So he's,
And this
you know,
is overlapping, by the way. So he's
Well,
still married. He's still
in
married.
Islam. Yeah, now we're up to 3. Now, you know, Steve, he's allowed 4.
4.
So
So he's got Sarah Raviani that he kept in his $21,000 penthouse in D.C. Then he's got this beauty queen, the actual current reigning Miss United States, who is from Florida, and she was living in his $12,000 a month beach house in Florida. And it wasn't until the domestic violence thing that this poor young lady right here finally discovered that she was not his one and only, even though they were talking marriage and buying rings. He wanted her to actually wanted her to be pregnant before her reign as this beauty queen comes to an end in October. That's how much he was talking her in. You know, he was planning her future while he's living with this other girl in D.C.
and married to a third one.
And married to a third one. And on top of that, he's got some more. We affectionately referred to them as his side pieces or his harem in other parts of the country as well. Oh yeah, there's more. And we'll be talking about that soon. Now, I have to be really careful about what I reveal here, because there's an order in which things have to come out, and then it also has to go through our legal department.
We're friends. You can just
tell that to my attorneys, or the Blaze attorneys. So there's more coming. This guy is rife with scandal, especially on the sexcapades sides
That's what
of
you
things.
want to hear about. That's the juice there, buddy.
It is the juicy stuff, and some of it is illegal. Like with this beauty queen, he is actually coming up. He's got a court hearing on the 18th of this month. A court hearing, because I mean, she has filed charges against him for sextortion. Is, you know, basically it's revenge porn. And they have taken some dirty pictures and dirty videos together in the privacy of their relationship. And when she decided to leave him because he found out about the D.C. girl who had been living with him for a year and a half in D.C., for God's sakes, I don't know how they kept this, you know, how he managed to keep these things apart. But once she found out about that as a result of the domestic violence call that happened in February, she broke up with him. She moved back home with her parents in Tallahassee area, and then he starts the process of starting to threaten her, and began to tell her that not only if she started dating anybody else, that he would send the pictures and the videos that he had of them together. But he also then threatened the whoever she dated. She goes, and also, you know, be sure and let that guy know he better be able to defend himself and put his boots on, because I'm coming after him. Wow. I mean, this is a sitting U.S. member of Congress doing this. And by the way, this is not rumor. We have all of the screenshots of all of these texts. We have them, and there's dozens of them.
Yeah, we saw the guy in the news report in Orlando. We saw, I don't know if you saw that, Steve, if I left it on long enough, but he's showing
the text messages.
Yeah, he's putting up the text messages for your work, for the Blaze's work. So that's awesome.
No, it's incredible, and and that's only a micro fraction of the evidence that we have. And she has turned all of that over to the sheriff's department down there where she lives in Columbia County, Florida. They have escalated it to FDLE. That's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which is the equivalent of, the state FBI, or like, the what do they call it in North Carolina? The
SBI.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's the same. It's the same type of investigative law enforcement division. Now, my sources have told me that this has also been escalated to the FBI. I don't have any proof of that yet, but I have been told that. And so, I mean, the guy's already committed a felony in that regard. Let me rephrase that. He has allegedly committed a felony. That's
Right.
better for my attorneys. But the bottom line is there's more coming. And what's probably going to end up putting this guy in prison, which we haven't even scratched the surface on yet, is his illegal business dealings, both overseas and domestically.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's just amazing. So how many parts of this series do you see forthcoming? Is it never ending?
There's another journalist, and this is an independent MSN journalist by the name of Roger Solenberger.
Mhm.
And even though we have no obligation to coordinate or anything like that, we are mutually respecting each other's work. He's respected the work we've done. We're respecting the work he's done. And he's got a story coming out, I think, tomorrow. And then he's got a massive 10,000 word story coming out on the business side next week, because he's really he's a business investigative journalist. So he's one of those guys that loves numbers, and drilling down into that kind of thing. And so he's got this massive story about his business dealings coming out next week, and it is devastating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, we really do appreciate you coming. Sloan, you got some final words?
Yeah, I do. One last question. What do you think of the Senate race shaping up here in North Carolina? Tillis, I mean, last time we talked, I know. What I can already tell on your face, you're feeling just like we are. Last time we talked about, Tillis being an SOB, really. And so
Right.
he listened to our interview, and I believe the next day he said, you know what? They're right about me. And quite frankly, I shouldn't run. I'm joking. I don't know if that happened, but he's not running. And we've got Whatley running, and we've got another guy running in the primary. What do you think? Roy Cooper.
Well, I have a rather long but indirect relationship to Cooper. My daughter and his daughter were roommates together at UNC Chapel Hill. Their freshman years there in the dorms. They were really close friends in high school at Broughton High School in downtown Raleigh. And then they applied when they both were accepted at UNC Chapel Hill. They both applied to be roommates there. That was accepted. I used to run into Roy at the events at Broughton High School. And then we ran into each other when we were moving our daughters into the dorm. And then, I became affected. My life was forever changed by Obergruppenführer Roy Cooper, when the COVID pandemic came to town, and he slapped a tyrannical, one of the most tyrannical regimes in the entire country came from Roy Cooper. And I began to write about him then extensively. And my daughter would cringe. She's like, "Oh, Dad, I'm friends with his daughter." And I said, "Hey, sorry, darling. I've got to tell the truth here about his thing." And so that was an interesting era. And so we're not going to let him go. And now, on top of that, we have his malfeasance in Western North Carolina after the storm last September 27th. Look, there was so much more. I mean, he could have done infinitely more with the resources available to him. 3 entire battalions, 3 battalions of National Guards engineers are located and based in North Carolina. You know how many he deployed?
0.
0.
Oh,
Not one. Not one battalion, not one troop,
I know.
not one uniformed guard member. Now he did deploy, I think it was, total around 2,000, 2,100 over the course of 3 months or 2 months, whatever it was. But by November 19th, he had removed them all, and they all were sent back home.
After the
November
election.
19th. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely incredible what he did not do. This was a purposeful, deliberate attempt to affect the vote in Western North Carolina. It failed because, as you know, I was up there for 3.5 weeks. I visited the polling centers, the early polling centers, and I'm telling you, those people were going to crawl across glass. Literally, they would have crawled across glass to cast their votes.
Yep.
Yep, because I wrote a story for Real Killer Politics about that actual issue. I think 2 weeks after early voting began. Found the same thing in county after county where, early voting even was just dominated up in Western North Carolina, really largely because of the work Margot did up there. Getting links out to everyone. Margot is a huge organizer in Western North Carolina. And
well, we had really good help with Mercury One, and the folks that you guys helped us with at Matt Von Swall's charity and Aaron's charity, and also Sean Hendricks. We had a great group. Cassie from down in Fayetteville. We really had a great group of people that worked together. Chris Hall, y'all, you know him. So we were very blessed to have you guys. And I say you guys because Mercury One is associated with the Blaze.
Yeah.
Really step up. I mean, I would say premier to Samaritan's Purse. Right beside them was JP Donahue and your group.
Right. No, they did incredible work. In fact, Mercury One is still there.
I know.
They're still there. They're still working. They're still bringing supplies in. They're still building homes. They're still helping, provide whatever's needed up there to individuals that are that are individually in need. They're still meeting those needs up there. And of course, obviously the other charities as well. And of course, I was embedded with Savage Freedoms Project up there, Adam.
Oh, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam is awesome. He's actually thinking about dropping in an
I didn't know that I wasn't going to say anything about it, but I talked to him this morning and he dropped that on me as well. So
what? Wait a minute. The baby's halfway out. Just tell us.
I just said he's thinking about it.
Yeah, but right now it's a breach, so we'll leave him alone.
Wow,
we love Adam. We love Adam Smith from Savage Freedom.
Yeah,
he is exactly that, savage.
Yeah. No, he is in the last days of considering primarying there in North Carolina 11.
Okay.
Yeah. He was not only weak. He was not only weak on the hurricane aftermath, but he has a very, very weak voting record in DC.
He pissed us off and good several times, trying to say that, pointing out the lackluster job done by FEMA, that was just a big conspiracy theory, you see, and we ought to just shut our mouths. Well,
liars.
Margot, since you already know what the consideration is, you can reach out to Adam and go ahead and push him over the edge. He's scared. He's really frightened.
Don't Sloan do that, Steve. He knows me. He does not know her.
Oh, okay. I'll come in with the.
No, I said Margot, you need to do that.
I know, but he knows I'm all on board. We got to get Sloan on his side now.
But you need to get in his ear, push him over the edge. Look, the one reason why I would never run for office is I would never submit myself to the fundraising. If I was independently wealthy and worth several $1 billion, I'd run for frickin' president if I didn't have to fundraise, and I didn't have to be beholden to anyone in the process. And so he's frightened in that regard because he is a good man. And but that kind of guy is just the kind of guy you might need.
He's the guy that'll stand up and not care what party you're in and take care of the people.
Right.
Well, good. All right. Well, thank you. We're going to close it out tonight. We've had a huge show, gotten a lot of perspectives. You need to get to your event I mean, we're sorry we
made-
kept you. Sorry not to
for
I'm-
the ladies.
Yeah, I'm 0.8 miles away from my event right now, so I need to get there.
Well, Steve, thanks for coming. Come back.
Thank you guys. All righty. Look forward to doing it again sometime.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
That's a wrap on today's NC Political Tea. We hope you're leaving sharper, spicier, and ready to take on the political craziness in the Tar Heel State. If you loved what you heard, or even if it made you mad, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this show with your friends, family, and that one coworker who just needs the truth. Follow us on social media to stay in the loop and get your daily dose of conservative fire. And remember, here in North Carolina, the grassroots grows stronger when we stand together. Until next time, keep the faith, keep up the fight, and don't let the left water down your tea. This is NC Political Tea, where we spill it like it is.